trust. When somebody doesn't trust you, they don't know you, they don't trust you, then they naturally are going to default to price.
Culture comes from the top down.
Those at the bottom compete, and those at the top collaborate.
You can still grow a large company with integrity, with honesty, with good core values. Okay, this is Chad with the Near Me podcast. I'm here today with Randy Hurtado. Randy is the COO of the Good Contractors List, and he is also an owner and COO of DT Companies, which makes up, I believe, 4 or 5 companies. He can fill us in a little bit more on that during our conversation. But I just want to say, Randy, thank you for taking your time out of the day to speak with us, share a little bit of your knowledge. Obviously, this call is probably more directed towards a Good Contractors List and what he's doing over there. But we'll ask him many questions along the way about how he got to where he's at with the Good Contractors List and also his DT companies as well, and what that looks like for him today. But Randy, thank you for jumping on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chad.
Yeah. So, the Good Contractors List, I think we've been with you guys a little over a year, or close to a year now. I didn't look that up before the call, but it seems like it's been about a year. So,
yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. So, and for those, before we get into our questions, if you're watching this video, you don't know who the Good Contractors List is, Randy, go ahead and explain that to us for a second grader.
Absolutely. So the Good Contractors List was formed in 2011 in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, originally to address the problem of bad contractors taking advantage of homeowners. And the goal was to create a list of good contractors that we provide, after vetting them, a financial backing so they can use that to build trust with their customer base. Because unfortunately, when we get in front of customers, they don't know anything about us. They only know what they read on the internet, and it's really easy to, for a slip-tongued salesperson to convince somebody to spend a lot of money with them, and they shouldn't be. And so, John Hill, our founder, decided that there had to be a better way, and created the Good Contractors List. Since then, he's grown it to a company that is. It's backed more than $5 billion worth of jobs for our contractors. We're now, as of a year ago, we're now a nationwide company. We were originally just DFW. And we have a 97% retention rate with our contractors because it works. And it addresses the problem that a lot of contractors don't even realize it's a problem until they get on the list and start using it and realize this is the reason why I've been having a hard time closing as many deals. And that is trust. When somebody doesn't trust you, they don't know you, they don't trust you, then they naturally are going to default to price. Because then they feel like, well, if I go with the cheaper guy and he doesn't do a good job, at least I won't look like a fool when I have to hire the second guy to come and fix the cheaper guy's stuff. Because I'll probably end up spending about the same as I would have if I would have chose the most expensive guy. So they kind of gamble it because they just don't know who to trust. And so what the Good Contractors List does is it helps the companies that make our list, like yourself, like Near Me, rocking your swag today, make it easier for you to close more opportunities in front of your customers, and for your customers to feel comfortable working with you. Because again, we all say the same thing. We've been in business this long. We've been this many 5-star reviews. We have Master Elite this and Platinum that. And the truth is that only matters to us, because the homeowner's just wondering in their head, is this guy going to walk off a job halfway through, or is he going to take off with my $10,000 deposit? And so we solved that problem for our contractors. And we cover all 50 trades across the nation. So, yeah, it's really starting to explode.
Right. Yeah. So that, the company started in Dallas, which is for roofing, I don't know what do they say. How many roofing companies are in Dallas now? I know I've heard numbers all over the place, but
Thousands and thousands of roofers. It's
yeah,
ridiculous, honestly. It just depends on what time of the year, because right after a hailstorm, everybody's a roofer. Yeah,
very true, very
there
true.
is no license requirement in the state of Texas for roofing, and so unfortunately that breeds a lot of bad actors. I'm not big on regulation, but I do think there needs to be some amount of accountability. And so what the good contractors list is for those states that don't have licensing, we vet our contractors. You guys know you were vetted heavily. We did background checks, both criminally as well as financially. And fortunately, we do have to tell a lot of contractors that they don't meet our requirements because of that. And at the end of the day, that helps protect homeowners. And that's our ultimate goal, is to help protect homeowners and help the good guys win more of the opportunities they have in front of them.
Yeah, and that also, keeps the integrity of the business model, and you're not just backing any Joe Schmo off the street or anyone that's just creating, an LLC and getting a few business cards, because that's the thing with the roofing, especially. Some of the other trades are a little bit more licensing involved, but the roofing side, there's no licensing, so it's a lot easier to get into, and so obviously there wouldn't be a good contractors list if there wasn't a need, because every business, good business, stems from a need.
That's
Uh,
right.
Unfortunately, there's bad actors in any industry or trade that we work with, and I would say contracting in general has a bad rap because we deal with it with subcontractors. Of they say they're going to be there, they say they're going to do this, and then the day comes and they don't show up, and so that just becomes the norm, that a lot of homeowners go through. And so this is just an extra insurance policy for them, but it's also a differentiator for us if they're comparing bids.
That's right.
So, to spin off of that, going into our first question. So, you experienced the Good Contractors List. So you were actually a customer before you were COO, right?
Yep.
So what is it about the Good Contractors List that convinced you that it actually worked and ultimately made you want to join the organization?
Well, I've told this story 1,000 times, it feels like, but I first joined the Good Contractors, and I still am a contractor in the DFW market. And our companies are on the list. In fact, right now we're up to 4 of our companies. The only one that's not on the list is our commercial roofing company, uh, because that's more commercial related $1 billion projects. Uh, when I first joined, I heard the Good Contractors List, and I thought, I'm a good contractor. I should be on that list. I thought it was an accolade and something I could proudly display on my website or what have you. I didn't I didn't realize until after we joined that when my guys were able to close more of the opportunities they had in front of them, guaranteed that that John was onto something. And so that at that point is when I approached him in 2020, and I asked him. I said, John, why is this not a nationwide solution? He said, well, to be honest with you, I started it here, and this is where we've kept it. It's everything I can do to keep it under control here because it's good. And with the staff that he had at the time, nationwide just didn't seem like it was possible, as busy as they were staying in DFW. And I said, well, if you ever change your mind, I want to be part of that because I really love what you guys are doing here. I can tell you that it's definitely affecting my business. And if it's affecting my business, it's going to affect other contractors' businesses. And I want to be a part of that rollout. And so, lo and behold, 4 years later, by the end of 24, he approached and at that point, he had decided he wanted to go nationwide. He had brought on a CEO to run it, and they both approached me to come in and take it nationwide. And I was all about it. I like to joke. I didn't need a sixth job, but what the goal of this company is. It has an altruistic approach where it's protecting homeowners, it's helping the good guys, it's putting the bad guys that give us a black eye. That we're the second most hated service provider to contractors, only second to ourselves. And so And that's a fact. That's statistically a fact. And so there's a reason for that. Our industries have earned that. You know, I hate to say it because I'm part of that, but we've earned it. And so it's our job as the good guys to kind of help customers, you know, understand there are those of us that wake up every morning with a heart to serve, to do good quality work, and to be unapologetically profitable doing so. And that's what the Good Contractors List is about. It's about supporting good contractors that want to do the right thing and protecting homeowners against the bad. What was that?
Yeah, I mean I think the name of it, and we spoke about this before, it says what it is, and I think that's great. There's other companies obviously, in the industry that do something similar, but I feel like the name says what it is, and I think when a homeowner, from a homeowner's perspective, it's like, okay, the Good Contractors List, if he's on it, he must be a good contractor. Otherwise,
there's others, but you know what they say, imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
yeah,
So, you know, all that tells you is that it justifies or further legitimizes the solution. That when you have others that are going to look into trying to emulate. So it's if anything, it's an honor. So we we're very focused on our company, and we're focused at seeing contractors of all sizes. You'll notice that we didn't have a revenue requirement when you joined.
hmm
Didn't have to do $500,000 to $1 million a year for you to be good enough for us. That's not what it's about. The good enough part is making sure that we feel comfortable sending you into our grandmother's house by herself, right? And that's what the vetting process basically figures out. And so it's worked out very well for our company. And to your point earlier about if we were to just a company that just let any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the list, that probably worked out for the first couple of months. As soon as they started getting claims, well, it takes 100 months for a contractor like where you're at, paying $250 a month. It takes 100 months for them to pay that $25,000.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
it
going
would
to take a little more time to recoup those
it would be a
those
terrible
expenses.
business model if we just let anybody on the list. And so it's also self preservation. It's making sure that we're building a list that it makes sense. $5 billion is a lot of money to protect or to
Yeah.
back. And so we're even out of
100%.
business of that. We're out of business.
Right. I mean, it's just like any business. You got to make a profit at the end of the day, and that, or you're not. You cease to exist. And one thing that you were talking about with you coming over, obviously you still own DT Companies. You're still their COO, but you wouldn't be able to do this position you're doing now with the Good Contractors List if you didn't have a team and processes and everything in place. That'll lead kind of into my second question. You built DT Companies before you took this new role. What do you think were the two or three decisions that had the greatest impact on your company's growth?
I would say the first one, I do have a partner. He's the one that actually started the company first in 2009. And he built a platform to build upon. And then I came along in 2016 as a lowly sales guy that just wanted to sell. And it turned out, I found out that I had an entrepreneurial spirit as well. And he gave me and trusted with me the ability to run the operation side of it. And it worked out really well for both of us. I would say what we didn't do, and we continuously learn, is we didn't grow too fast. And what I mean by that is our overhead. I'm a big fan of saying operators should wear as many hats as they can until they can afford not to. I like to call them professional hat racks.
Yeah.
Because if after you make your first million, if you start hiring way too many positions, what happens if the next season is slow, or something happens in the market, or what have you? Now you gotta let a bunch of people go. And we've had more years of amazing growth than we haven't, but there have been years where things were really slower, and we even had a little stint of it more recently where we realized that we were a little fatter than we needed to be, and made some business decisions that nobody ever wants to make, but you have to take the business God gave you and honor it, and not just say, oh, it'll fix itself. Uh, so making wise decisions, uh, not hiring too fast, but then when you do, making wise decisions to make sure that you. I hate to use the trim the fat because these are people. These are people we love. But everybody understands what I'm saying. You gotta run as lean as you possibly can while not causing everybody to go crazy. And you do all that right, at the end of the day, you end up with profit.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the thing that I think a lot of people that work for entrepreneurs forget is we're not Habitat for Humanity. We got to be profitable, and there's plenty of time for doing good things for people, charity and everything, but you got to be profitable to do so.
that's it. It's not a 501(c)(3) or whatever
Right.
they say. Yeah, that I mean that's the thing. We all got to make profit, and we've dealt with that in our company. Is like when times when you're busy and cash flow's coming in, you don't really think so much about it. You're making profit, and then the winter months come. We've tracked like the last 3 years, so we know like a percentage of revenue by month. So we like last year I knew like December, January we probably were going to break even, and like as long as I went into the mindset with that, it was okay. But if I went to the mindset I want to be profitable, it's just experience you get year to year. And but if you're growing really fast like you guys probably were, like you do feel this overwhelming need to hire, because you want that customer service aspect. You want to make sure the customers you're getting serviced. And so that's the challenge of operating a business that's growing. And that was my third question, which was like wearing two hats, because right now you have your DT companies, but now you're in a role of you're a contractor yourself. So I think that lends to credibility for your position, because you're speaking from experience, and the fact that you're running a pretty large company yourself. So when it comes to wearing those hats, like do you have, I guess, at DT companies, you have good people in place that are pretty much running that company for you, right?
Amazing people.
Yeah.
We have leadership for the sales. We have production management. We have marketing, a CMO for marketing, um, and then our guys in the field, our sales team, our support team for our sales team, and all of those moving parts allows for a well-oiled machine, so it doesn't have to be micromanaged. And so, yeah, no, we are definitely blessed at our company, and I would not have the time or bandwidth to do what I'm doing with the Good Contractors List if those people didn't exist.
Yeah. Well, and that's, obviously once you get to a certain size, you can hire those key high level positions, because I'm sure they don't come cheap, right? Like if you want a
Yeah,
good person, you're going to have to pay them a lot of money. For us, like right now, I'm kind of in the general manager role because I have a sales manager now. And so like even just getting a sales manager took a lot off my plate. But yeah, there's those stages. I mean, to get to a position where you're at, like you got to have some revenue, because you're paying a probably a multi six figure person, a couple of them, to basically operate your company when you're not there. So it does take a level, of revenue to be able to get to that place. And so, that lends to your business acumen that you have. And I know from your story, you didn't come, you're not a roofer. Your parents weren't in the roofing industry, kind of like me. You came from, a different industry, but a lot of the things that you learned a lot from. I know you were in like cybersecurity, but I know there's probably a lot of things you took from that and helped you on the business and the roofing and contracting. So like, as far as like, if you were, you work with contractors a lot. What's the biggest mistake that you see that kind of keeps them from growing? And I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear your take on that.
oh, there's a couple. I alluded to one of them earlier as trying to grow your overhead too quickly once you have a windfall year. The other one I would say that a lot of contractors are guilty of, and I think they just do it out of impersonation. They see other companies doing it as well. Is they try to do too many things under the same company name, And they think that when a customer sees that, ABC roofing, siding, painting, garage doors, and fried chicken and oil change,
Yeah.
that wow, that company is talented. They know how to. And the reality is what they're really asking is, what are they good at?
Hmm.
Like, when my roof gets damaged, do I want to hire them to do? When I want to paint my house, do I want to hire them? Like, are they just trying to add that to get through the months when there's not hail falling out of the sky? You know, and so what we did at our companies, and the reason why we have 5 companies, is if we wanted to get into something else, we didn't add it to the DT roofing docket. We started a new company, and because another problem that a lot of contractors have, mistakes that they make is they'll start doing something, and because it's part of the revenue of their main love, their first squeeze, uh, they don't know that they're even good at it because they picked up siding, and then siding's numbers are mixed in with roofing's numbers, and everything looks great. But if you actually broke them down, you'd realize, wow, I suck at siding. Like, I haven't turned a profit in a year since I started it, and maybe you shouldn't be in siding. And I've actually spoken on this before at the roofing process conference. The other thing that you compete against when you do that is when a customer is looking for siding, especially with AEO and SEO today, uh, they're much more likely to be shown Al's siding over ABC roofing, siding, fried chicken, and oil change, because AI is starting to become smart enough to recognize, and somebody does just a single trade, they're likely better at it than somebody that does multiple trades. And so you actually shoot yourself in the foot because your marketing spend doesn't go as far, because that marketer's job now is so much harder. They're trying to make you popular in every category essentially that you're trying to be, instead of just being a roofer and put all that money into roofing, or painting or whatever your. So one, I'd say find something you're really good at it and build a brand off of it, because that's actually how we were able to start other companies. We had DT Roofing. DT Roofing became the Coca-Cola roofing in our area. And then when we wanted to start other businesses like Kingdom Builder Construction, a DT company, people didn't know the Kingdom Builder Construction, but they knew that DT logo from the DT roofing. So they would go, "Oh, I haven't heard of that. Oh, are those guys involved? Okay, well, if it's them, I'm gonna call. I'm gonna give them a shout. Give them a try." Patriot Garage Forward Service, a DT roofing or a DT company. So those companies had success right out of the gate because they were able to take advantage of coattail riding from DT roofing success while having their own identity and having their own books, P&L, leadership, so we can figure out, is it a real business or not. So you take our construction company, we started about 5 years ago. Originally it did like $1 million its first year, a couple million its second. Now we're building homes. So I think our docket is up to like 13 homes, either in process or ready to be built. We're doing remodels, additions, patios, pergolas, ton of projects. But what if we would have kept that under DT Roofing and Construction? Would it be as successful as it is today? Are you going to hire DT Roofing and Construction to build your dream home?
No.
They're going to hire Kingdom Builder Construction, someone who sounds like that's what they do, and so that's one mistake that I think a lot of contractors make, is they try to fit too many things under their umbrella. Not to say that you shouldn't do those things, but when you make it your identity as like this long thing, then you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I 100% agree with. And, with the roofing side, and think about why these companies do these other things, because with roofing, you have to be putting roofs on every day, multiple a day to grow, a sustainable company over time. And what they do is they try to fill in the downtime with other work. And we've kind of done that from the beginning, is we just focused on roofs. And it seems like every time we hire somebody that comes to work, and you've probably experienced this, they come to work for us and they're like, why don't you guys do this? Why don't you guys do that? Why don't you guys do this? We should add this. And I'm like, hey, slow down there, buddy. We do this for a reason because we want to be known for it and we want to be good at it. And it's kind of like you said, a lot of them aren't even good at roofing yet,
Yeah.
and that's why they're doing all this other stuff. Because if they were good at roofing, they wouldn't need to do all this other stuff.
Well, I've had people say just why I say, well, I do that because, if they're in the storm market, when hell hits, it doesn't just hit the roof, it hits the fences and the stain gets knocked off and the garage doors. And I was like, that's fine. But if you can still do all that. But imagine you being your best customer for your garage door company and then being able to also sell garage door services to customers separately.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing, especially as it pertains to storm markets. Are you going to get overhead profit on a job when all those things are included and those things are all in your name?
Yes.
No.
No, excuse me. No to that because you want to have separate invoices showing. Yeah,
That's right. And
yeah.
so,
You want to show the
so
bid
when,
items.
so when DT Roofing takes on a job, we say, yeah, we can do it all. We have hardware companies that we work with. So we get a bid from Guardian Seamless Gutters. We get a bid from Patriot Garage Door and Service for that $124 stain that they paid for in the kitchen. That's obviously going to be like $1,500. We get a bid from Kingdom Builder Construction to do that. And then we submit all those to the insurance company and we put our overhead and profit on top of it for DT Roofing. Those companies make their money. We make our overhead profit. We're staying within the rules and we're still able to offer. Another cool thing that happens is sometimes your competitors become your customers.
Mm-hmm.
I have other roofing companies that buy their garage doors from. Would they if I was DT Roofing, garage doors, gutters, and construction? No. Because it's that whole competitive thing. Like, I'm not going to buy from a competitor. And they know that I own that company. It feels a lot better when they know that when that garage door gets installed for their customer that they just did a roof for, that a guy with Patriot Garage Door and Service is going to show up to the house. It doesn't say DT Roofing on it.
Yeah.
That would look kind of weird. So,
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of things that companies don't really think about, but there are many caveats to it when you can have that separator. And like you said, with overhead and profit, and it's like an uphill battle now, like when you're trying to get that. And we got a thing now where, if the homeowners want us to do all the work, we have them sign our O&P document, and like we're not doing, we're letting them know ahead of time, hey, we can take care of these other trades as long as we can get, your involvement, get the insurance to pay for the overhead and profit, because you're making most of your money on the roof. Everything else is just kind of a byproduct of what you're doing, but you want to try to service the customer, keep everything in house, take really good care of them, make it a good experience, so they don't. Because the average homeowner can't call 5 or 6 contractors
right.
and meet 5 or 6 contractors, leave work, those type of things. So
I wish insurance company. I like to say that they don't understand. They understand. They just play ignorant. Is if I'm doing all of those things and I'm just working through them to pay the sub bill. Well, when I sign that contract with a customer, if 2,000, we'll just use round numbers, 2,000 of the $20,000 contract is ancillary things, then they're just paying for the contractor to get paid. And I'm not getting paid overhead and profit to monitor and to GC that stuff. That actually hurts my books because you have now $2,000 of that 20,000 that's part of the gross that is never going to have a net profit at all. It's a zero net profit, which makes my profit margins look worse overall. So I've got this liability that I'm paying for, by the way, because insurance companies know because they're the ones that are charging me. I get charged every year. My insurance is based off of my revenue. Well, if 20% of my revenue is work that I'm not even physically doing, I'm taking liability for it because I signed a contract with the customer to do all these other trades, but I'm hiring other people to do it, help the customer out. The insurance company doesn't want to pay the overhead and profit for the GC to handle all that. I'm taking all that revenue liability on. I'm paying taxes on it. I'm sorry, I'm paying insurance against it, and I didn't make any profit on it. And
yeah,
so,
at some point it's not worth it. And
no.
like you said, if you had your revenue by trade and you're going through your P&L and you're like, I did 5 million in roofing and I did 200,000 in siding.
Mm-hmm.
Like that 200,000 didn't really affect the bottom line at all. Like
Yeah.
you won't miss it. So matter of fact, how many roofs could you have sold if you wasn't messing with the 200,000 worth of
That's
siding?
right. That is true.
So and that's the thing about growing a business, and even from the insurance side with the supplementing overhead profit. Those people don't understand. They're sitting behind a desk. Most of them haven't had training, and it is an uphill battle. But that's where we have to get better. As contractors. As growing your company, and we just talked about a couple of things that we go through. Um, it's easy to lose like the culture and everything that made you successful. How have you intentionally protected your culture while scaling in your DT companies?
So our core culture is leans heavily on our faith, and while it's not a prerequisite to be a Christian working for DT companies, we're just really fortunate to be surrounded by a bunch of Bible believing people. And even if we have an employee who either chooses not to really partake in that or is indifferent, they know that when we have a company meeting or a department meeting or what have you, we're going to close it with a prayer. We're going to tell them, hey, when we hear something that's going on in their life, we're going to say, man, I'm going to pray for you on that, or can I pray for you right there? Um, that doesn't change depending on how much revenue you get. If it does, then I have a prayer that I pray constantly in front of my staff. I'm sure it makes a difference a little bit every time I do it. But I always say, Lord, as soon as we forget where all this is coming from, please take it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so our team knows where we stand, that none of this is ours. That we're just being stewards of it. And I think that's the reason why we continue to thrive, even during slow times. Um, and as soon as we forget it, then my prayer is that you take it away, because I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to stand before him and have to account for all the things all the blessings that he gave me that I just squandered.
Yeah. And I think that's something me personally is like you get when you own a business, like you're busy and like you can get so busy that you kind of lose focus of everything, making sure you're going to church, making sure you're spending that prayer time, making sure you're making time to read your Bible and those type of things. It's like you can get busy and that stuff kind of slowly gets squeezed out of your work day and out of your personal life. And before you know it, you got away from the foundation that probably helped build everything.
There's a verse in the Bible that says it's easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven. And that's the reason why. It's not because of the money, it's the love of the money. And so as long as you prioritize when you're blessed, you look at it as an opportunity to bless others. It doesn't mean you're not going to be able to build that home that you've always wanted, or drive maybe a car or truck that you've always wanted. But those are ancillary. Like if God took them all away tomorrow, they're not valuable. But I love the fact that when we're successful, we're able to write those checks to that organization or to that ministry, or bless a single mom, and she had no idea where it came from. That's what I work hard for, because I ain't taking any of this stuff with me. So if I'm going to have an abundance, then it's going to be given out, and then in order to be able to do that, you got to earn it. You got to make it. And so I am unapologetic to my team when I say, like, guys, our numbers suck this month. It's not like, last month we may have had a great month, but if our numbers suck this month, I need to set the tone now. That is not who we are. We work hard. And that also goes to our biblical principles that, you work, do all things as if you're working for the Lord. This is how you would serve the Lord, sitting around being complacent, not doing anything. So that culture isn't going anywhere, whether we're $100 million company or a $50 million company or a $2 million company, unless you allow it. Now, there are going to be things that change and have changed as we've grown as a company. We have to start looking at this and looking at that. Of course, the more people you get, the better chance you have to hurt somebody's feelings. And so that whole I wouldn't say corporate mindset, but as you medium-sized business starts to grow, there's things that you got to put in place, and you're like, I know, but it's necessary, And but our core culture, I don't think there's a person in our company that you can interview privately, and they would tell you that we don't have a solid culture.
Yeah, and I think, every podcast you listen to now, they talk about culture and it's like a buzzword and everything. But I think you really got to have an organization with culture to kind of understand what that is. Because a lot of times it's not something you can explain. And culture comes from the top down. Like, I can't tell my team you do this, but I show up late or I'm leaving early. Work hard, but I'm leaving at 4 to go to the golf course, or
Yeah,
these type of things. I feel like culture is something from the top down, and it's kind of like the law of the lid. I don't know if you read that book before, but he talks about, like, as a leader, like, people, all their vision and everything has to be able to fit inside of yours, and your company can only grow if you're growing. And that's the thing that I challenge myself all the time, is like, hey, I got to be reading books. I need to be eating clean and working out and keeping my mind clear so I can think, I can be creative, I can, help people, I can lend help here where it's needed, those type of things. So with culture, it is something that comes from the top down, but it's kind of hard to explain what culture is, but until you've been to a company that has one and you've seen it, then you understand what that is. It doesn't have to be said all the time. It's just something that you do
yep.
unconsciously. And kind of spin off of that back to a couple of questions. So, like, as far as like trust and everything nowadays, homeowners have become a little bit more skeptical with hiring contractors. What do you believe companies need to do today to earn the trust before they knock on the door or answer their phone?
I mean, my default answer is if you've been in business 3 years, join the Good Contractors List.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a good
but
answer.
but the foundational answer there is you cannot effectively serve customers if you don't know how to serve them. And what I mean by that is each department within your company needs to have good, solid training and process in place, and it all has to work well together. So you can have an amazing sales organization, but if your back office is lacking, then they're going to get overwhelmed. Things are going to get missed, and customers are going to have a terrible experience on the back end with billing. So you grow the business uh, unified instead of just focus on one area of it. So if you start to notice that your sales team is outpacing another department, now it's time to allow the sales teams go where they're at and then look on that other department, get everybody to the same level, and then work on the next. So if our marketing is outpacing our sales, then hey, we're going to pull the budget a little bit so get these guys to be able to handle all the leads you're creating or whatever, So you will never have local trust. Like, I said, we're the Coca-Cola of roofing in our area. A lot of that does come with time, with having time. It comes with getting involved in your community. We're very intentional about being involved in our community. We do a food drive. It's not just a once a year thing. We do it year round. Our guys, whenever we do a roof in that neighborhood, we go and knock all the houses. We do two things. We apologize for any noise pollution that we're going to create while we're putting our neighbor's roof on, and we leave a red bag called the red bag food drive, and it's part of our DT serves initiative. We leave a red bag at their front porch, and we just say we're going around doing a roof in your neighborhood, so we're collecting canned food for the local pantry. It'll go to your local pantry. So if you have anything that you've been staring at for the last 2 months that is still a date and you want to donate it, feel free to fill the bag. We'll come back through and we'll pick it up. We never mentioned a thing about looking at their roof. You know how many people say, "Oh, that's so awesome that you guys do that." Well, while you're at it, why don't you take a look at my roof? Because if his roof's damaged, then I might be too. We make it's their idea. So our act of service ends up getting us ultimately what we need anyways. and it's connecting us to the community. So we're more than just a roofing company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we kind of, actually seen you posted about that some months back. We kind of did something similar. We called it, I think, like the red bag or something food drive.
Yep.
We've just had trouble being consistent with it, but that's something that we're
Hey,
still,
we're not always perfect at
yeah,
it either. There's
yeah,
some months that we have just more food than we can handle in the food pantry area that we have are coordinated, and then other months that the shelf just the shelf has food on it and it's not all stacked around it. But it's just a matter of rallying the troops and saying, hey guys, the pantry's looking a little low. Why don't you get out there? Don't forget to do that. But our intention is pure, and I can tell you that there are a lot of families that are helped through that initiative. So, but make an effort. If your goal is just to come into a community and take from it, but you don't give back, then it's kind of lame. I mean, you could certainly provide a service, be an entrepreneur and everything, but these are people that spent money with you. So give back to the community that you took from.
and this isn't a question that I had prepared or anything, but it's something that sometimes bothers me. It's like when you see a big company, especially when you have competitors, when you're a small guy and you see a company that's big, a lot of times they will say negative things about the bigger company, whether it's true or not. And I feel like you can still grow a large company with integrity, with honesty, with good core values. But there are a lot of companies out there that are larger that they seem to lose that along the way. The things that made them good, and then they just get to a scale, and then it's just almost too much to control. And then the guys that seem to stay small, they always want to look the big companies say, well, they do this, they do that. But if you're actually out actively in your community, becoming a part of your community, giving back to your community, like it gives people a lot less ammunition because like
It
you're
squashes
you
all
know,
that.
yeah.
That's another point that I like to make is years ago when I was in sales, still, I remember I was at a customer's house. This was the second visit. The first visit, uh, well, I'd take that back. It was probably the third visit because the first visit was the inspection. The second visit was signing the contract. And the third one was we were there to pick out colors. And while I'm sitting on this lady's couch, doorbell rings, and she answers it, and it's another roofer. And he says, I'm with such and such roofing. I'd like to go. He goes, well, I've already chosen a contractor, but thank you. And he goes, oh, would you mind telling me who you went with? She said, yeah, I went with DT Roofing. And his response was, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't hear it myself. I was just sitting there earlier. His response was, oh, I can't compete with that at all. And I went back to my sales team and I said, what about us can't compete with that? What are we doing that's different? We're providing good customer service. We're getting out there in the community. We've created a narrative where I can't do that. That's a defeatist mentality, and I felt bad for his mindset because there are plenty of roofing companies in our area that are great competitors, and we love them, you know. And I'll go on, I'll see some of their guys posting, and I'll love it and great company and all that, and the owners are like, that's weird, you know. I've even had lunch with them where I'm kind of, hey, can you grab lunch or whatever? And then they ask questions, and I'm like free and clear on everything. Like, yeah, you need to do this and all that. And they're like, how did you share all this with us? And I'll just tell them, I was like, because you're one of the good guys. You're doing it right, taking care of your customers. You're not cutting corners and covering deductibles and doing all the shady stuff. Why wouldn't I want you to be successful? And he's like, oh. And then I always get a little sneer. Plus, you're never going to outwork me.
Yeah, you get that little one liner in there, right?
Let me show
It's
you my calendar.
yeah.
you
It's
know,
funny, it's funny you say that because I kind of feel like that's what we've done in our market. In It's like I think you gotta have an abundance mentality.
That's right.
And you know, us being believers, like everything, I believe that everything that I have comes from the Lord. And so it doesn't matter if I got 10 new contractors that open my backyard, the Lord takes care of me. So like, you know what I mean? And so I think when you go about with that mindset and you figure out that you actually have a lot more friends in the industry than you do enemies. And I've probably had 3 or 4 different roofing company owners in my office. One, we
Yeah.
was doing
Oh yeah.
a training on supplementing. They'll stop in, just see how I'm doing. But the funny thing is, to spin off what you said, is you could tell them everything you're doing, but half of them won't do it.
I've literally said that.
So I mean,
And you're absolutely right. They
I could
just
give them the whole playbook, but they won't do it because they're afraid to spend 10,000 on marketing or 250
or
for the
even
good,
just put in the
whatever,
effort.
you
Yeah.
know, for the good contractors list. Some of them won't even spend that. So it's just,
Right.
they'll never do what you can do because you are who you are. There's one DT roofing and one Randy Hurtado, so, but anyhow, we kind of got off on that, but there is a lot of truth to it. But that's good that you're giving back because I believe there's plenty of business for everybody,
There's
um,
absolutely plenty of business for everybody.
and that's the
Um,
mindset we
there's
should have.
there's an
So,
old saying that those at the bottom compete and those at the top collaborate.
hmm
And so if you want to be the guy that wants to sit there and just worry about what I'm doing and poo-poo everything when I put something up on the internet, showing a roof that we just acquired, man, you're spending so much energy. I'm living in your head rent free, and I think the world of me. Like I celebrate when you know, when you put up a video or a picture of you being successful. Like that's awesome. I love that for you. So if you want to hate on me, go for it. But I got nothing but love for you. I don't have any love for the guys that do it well. And the reason why that's the case, it's not because they're taking business from me. It's because people are being taken advantage of.
yeah, people are being taken advantage of, and it kind of ruins our industry and how people view it. So, and so I guess that's a good time to spin off my next question is, you've seen a ton of contractors through the Good Contractors List. What makes a company elite, in your opinion, in today's market?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you're not referring to our vetting process. You're just more just what makes them somebody that we want to look at. Is when we look at the online persona, their profile, their reviews, their content, and it's all about being proud of the service that they're providing their customers, having customers that are saying the same thing about them. Those are the people that we want to even in our own backyard. You know? And when I say that, I mean as a competitor. If I lose a job to another big contractor list member, look, it's water off my back. That's not big. If I lose to a guy that said, "I'll cover your deductible, paint your house," and then they do an overlay, that's frustrating because I want to educate. I want to wring the customer's neck and go, "What are you doing to yourself?" Like, but they're adults and they can make their own decisions. So, uh, I would say an elite contractor is somebody who, like I said earlier, wakes up every morning, wants to be a good servant, do great work as if they're working for the Lord, and be unapologetically profitable. I think that's the one area that a lot of believers get wrong is they think that profit is a bad word, and they just need to read their Bible a little deeper. My investment company is called Matthew 25 Investments.
That's pretty cool.
The parable of the talents.
hmm
It was the one who doubled his talent that was rewarded and celebrated. It wasn't the one that buried it.
There it
And
is.
so my job, if God gives me an opportunity to serve people, is to serve them with the best possible service I can provide them at the best possible value. That doesn't always mean the cheapest price. And if they walk away with exactly what they were hoping for, and I walk away profitable, then we both win. That's how capitalism's supposed to work. And so there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just now what do I do with that? Do I take that and go and buy 10 Ferraris and homes everywhere on every coast? Or Do I, you know, yes, live a little comfortably, but then do the Lord's work with the rest. It's just that's what I.
Yeah, and I mean, really, like you were talking about, if you lose a bid to the guy that's, you know, eating their deductible and painting their house, and at the end of the day, they really didn't win because how much are they actually making after they do all that, and then did the customer win because they
Right.
might
That
have
guy's not
been,
in business in 5 years.
yeah, he's not in business in a few years, and how many times you got a larger company than us, but how many times do you go out to do repairs on a roof that's less than 5 years old?
All the time. In fact, I
Can't get a
remember
hold of them.
even when I was in sales, I remember I don't know how many times I asked the customer, like, this roof looks brand new. Like, why don't you just call the company that did the roof and have them fix these things? Because it should be under warranty. Yeah, they're not answering their phone, or their phone is not activated anymore, or it's just like, oh, that, you know. And and sometimes, like, it goes back to what the philosophy of the good contractors list is when people don't know who they can trust, they default to the cheapest person because they don't want to look like the idiot, and pay the top price and still get a bad job. So they
Yeah,
go with the lowest job, and then I'll run the risk. But if they can trust the person that they're working with, well, then they don't mind paying a little bit more to get the job done properly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
not have to
yeah. I
pay
mean,
this whole contractor roulette thing.
exactly. We see that in our market, and many times we get calls like that, and it blows my mind that they probably did at the time go with the chief, and they probably knew what they were getting, so they probably called a few times, and they're like, well, I guess I got what I paid for, so let me call this other company that has great reviews and probably will come out and fix my problem. So what just to kind of end our conversation and kind of what do you see the home service industry? Where do you see it going? I know there's obviously a lot of private equities getting into home services and everything, but you know, obviously with roofing, it's gotten harder over the last couple of years. The insurance companies are making it harder on everyone. What do you think the future of home services looks like?
Well, I'll give you my answer in two ways. One, as it pertains to roofing, companies that are in the store markets that don't get to choose whether it's a retail market or not, they're going to have to learn how to work within that environment or die.
Mm-hmm.
Their businesses will go under. What I mean by that is, even though they're in a store market, they're going to have to learn how to sell like a retail market. Because with LPS policies, with high deductibles, eventually that's the route it's going to go. I personally don't have a, and I want to be clear on when I say this, I don't have a problem with large deductibles. I have a problem with paying a large deductible as a consumer. But as a contractor, I'm not worried that 3%, 5% is coming or here because I'm one of the good guys. And when a homeowner has to spend more out of their pocket, they tend to do a little more research on the company they're going to choose. And they tend to work with companies that have been around a little longer, that have more trust. When it's only going to cost them $1,000, yeah, this guy's fine. And so you need to be able to set your company up like to offer financing. That should have been in place already for many companies, just so that you can offer upgrades and help with those deductibles by financing them. But now it's going to be a foregone conclusion that you have to have financing in place because if the customer does have that $10,000 deductible, a lot of people don't have $10,000 in their bank account, let alone go put it on a deductible. So if you're not the guy that's offering a financing option for that, probably losing to the guy that is. So I would say that's my answer for roofing. As it pertains to home services as a whole, which is basically the rest of the industry that's all retail, I don't think anything's going to change. Things are going to technology is going to definitely come into play. I don't think the AI is going to, the only place the AI is going to play a part is in the business model itself, like the office type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's never going to be in our lifetime. There's never going to be an AI robot that's going to be totally fine. I don't care what contraptions people show on the internet, putting on these roofs. As soon as that thing hits a valley or hits a hip or a ridge, it's not going to be able to do anything, and a man's still going to have to do it. Um, so those recent videos that hit the internet won't really affect me at all. I don't think that's reality. Um, but making sure that home service operators become, whether they use outside services or they use inside, they become marketing companies that happen to paint or marketing companies that happen to roof. You only need to, I think it was, gosh, Milton, what's his last name? I can't think of his last name. So Milton Golden, maybe. Anyhow, he's a economist, not Milton Friedman, by the way.
Yeah.
More recent back. But he made a comment recently that said, I just need people to be able to find me. I know how to do the service. I just need people to find me. And so you can be really, really good at what you do, whatever your craft is. That used to be the differentiator between you and the other guy. Now it's an expectation. That's like your foundation, that you're good at what you do. Now the difference is, how do you stand out to allow the customer to trust you and to know you to begin with? That's where marketing is going to come in. That's where things like the Good Contractors List come in. So you just have to, over time, you have to move with the times. Home services, welding, mechanical things, those aren't going away. Mike Rowe's right on top of it. He understands exactly what is needed. We have such a huge deficit in America for blue collar work. None of the younger guys want to work anymore, and so I was reading. I think it was Mike Rowe actually. I was reading something he wrote. It's like there's 300,000 weld jobs that are waiting to be taken up, and those are jobs that make high 5-figure, low 6-figure a year wages that will rather take underwater basket weaving in college than to go right into from high school into the trades and make 6 figures at 21 years old. I just don't get that. But
Yeah,
I really do think that the home services world isn't going anywhere. But you're going to definitely need to stay up with the times when it comes to the technology to run the business and to advertise.
yeah. I mean, those are all great answers. That's kind of what I was looking for. I kind of knew what the answer was going to be to that because in the roofing side, that's kind of how we pivoted, made our business. And I think, like you said, the marketing and branding is the main thing. Like once you get that dialed in, everything else, like if a customer, one thing we say here is if a customer gives me 20 grand, their minimum expectation is that the roof's going to be done right and it's going to look good when you're done.
Correct.
Just like if you go into the restaurant and you spend $100 on a steak, your minimum expectation is that steak better be good.
That's
What
it.
else? What else do you want? You want great service, clean restaurant, great atmosphere. Like once you're spending more money, those are all things you expect too. But the minimum expectation is that steak better be good.
That's right.
And that's the same thing with your roof. Is like that's the minimum. And a lot of our competitors spend so much time on how great they are at that, and then they miss everything else, and then they wonder why they can't grow and those type of things.
My guys hear it all the time from contractors that we're talking to about getting on the list. They'll say, "Well, I'm already platinum this with that, and master elite that, and we've been at it and all that." And I say, "Great, that all matters after you've won the job. Because in order to use all that, you got to actually win the job and put the roof on. That's why
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to the customer, because you're telling them stuff that matter once they've chosen you, right?
Yeah.
And so that is irrelevant. It goes back to my comment of that's the minimum. Whatever you're saying, all that stuff that speaks to the minimum of where you should be at. But what's different about you? Why you? You know, and that little logo over your right shoulder is one of the reasons why near me. You know, is every single job that you guys do is backed by a third party with money, not with a word or a promise or an A+ rating, with cold hard cash, and that puts homeowners' mind at ease and causes them to choose you more often than choosing somebody else.
That's it. And
I
I
appreciate
think
the little plug in the background too. That's pretty
yeah,
neat.
Yeah, the Good Contractors List. Yeah, give them guys a shout. But I think that's a great place for us to stop and end this conversation. It was really enlightening, and I hope that anyone that takes the time out of their day to watch this, that they get something from it. We'll probably also make a few short videos that can be shared, and so. Yeah, we'll put the info out there, and thank you to the Good Contractors List and Randy Hurtado, and then also DT Companies, because without that, he probably wouldn't even be involved with the Good Contractors List. So, thank you for taking your time out of the day to chat with us here.
And I would challenge anybody who's watching this, if this podcast blessed you in any way, go to Near Me Roofing's Google page and give them a 5-star review because we got value from them today.
There you go. I like the idea of that, Randy. I appreciate it. And thanks for again for coming on with us. And we hope that everyone gets some value out of it.